Now, Erie's premier podcast. News about music, health, and what's happening. It's Breakfast with Nat the Hat in the 814, sponsored by Erie Insurance.
Well, this is podcast number 13. It is music and laughter, the very best medicine in the 814. We'll begin with the music this morning. My first guests are no strangers to the music scene. Welcome Chip Shell, fellow podcaster and musician in the 814, and John Tramontano. John, JT, I'm going to call you that. You are the president of the JPT Foundation.
Yes.
These cats have put some fabulous shows together. But before we fill you in on the first Tuesday of every month, I'd like to get some skinny on both of you. So welcome to the show. And first off, John, let's find out more about the JPT Foundation, the beginnings.
Okay. So the JPT Foundation started in 2000. Started the foundation in my father's memory. He was the president of Teledyne Penn Union at Edinburgh, and he was also the president of the Manufacturers Association's Board of Trustees. So after he passed, at the funeral, Ralph Pontillo, who was the president of the association at that time, had a long history with my dad. He was actually the marketing manager when the presidency vacated, and my dad lobbied hard, and that's how Ralph came to
what a man,
the
myth and a legend
fantastic,
in the 814.
Yes. And it's, as we talk about things are kind of going full circle. We're actually working with Ralph's family on doing a scholarship through the foundation. And it's just kind of unique that the JPT Foundation started because of Ralph, and now we're going to incorporate some scholarships in his memory with his recent passing, unfortunately. So in 2000, we started the foundation. It was an unnamed scholarship fund that the Manufacturers Association had. So Ralph said, hey, how about we name it after your dad, call it the John P. Tramontano Jr. Education Foundation. We name you chairman. You select some of your dad's colleagues that are current local business folks, put a board together, and we'll help do all the accounting, all the business side through the association, so you don't have any.
What year was that in, Joe?
That was March. My dad passed in March of 2000. This was probably April, May is when things started to get put together with the foundation. So
great.
We started doing scholarships from the money that they had raised. We did some golf tournaments. We did some racquetball pro-ams. We did a lot of things that traditional organizations do, but we kind of stumbled into the bingo world, which is kind of where we were talking a little bit earlier.
One of my favorite things to do, play bingo. Tell us more.
So we had. In about 2010, I had a friend that came to me and said, my wife runs a bingo operation, and they just found out that the entity is not a nonprofit, and it's big issues to do that if they're not. So I said, all right, well, what are we doing? What do we entail? And
where's my dauber need to go?
We just need somebody to give money to, was the sales pitch I had. So
how can you not take that sales pitch and run with it? That is fantastic.
I called Ralph and I said, I was trained, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. So he said, all right, well, let's have him come in. Let's have meet the full board, and that's what we're there for. Let's vet it. And it was the one in a million. We needed a nonprofit to give money to, and that's how we got into the bingo scene. That was about 2010.
That's like hitting the lottery.
It was.
And all for a great cause, too.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny because you do all the hard work of the golf tournaments and all the other things, and you're dependent on weather and all these other elements. So to have something that really just was kind of easy to manage and put together is how things started. And we've evolved now to having our own event center. We're at the Old Hills building on 38th Street.
The best popcorn ever.
So people of a certain age, if you say the Old Hills department store, know exactly where that's at.
That's most of us.
McLean Church was previously in there. We took over the lease from them. And so we have regular bingo on Monday, Wednesday, twice on Thursday, 10:30 in the morning and evening, and then Saturdays. And those are the main revenue sources for the JPT Foundation. And having that space, it led us to another niche where we're doing turnkey fundraising events for schools, booster clubs, nonprofits. And on Fridays, Saturday afternoons, and Sundays, we do a turnkey event to help folks raise money for their important causes. And we probably raised about $500,000 in 2023 for about 60 different entities that had events with us. And then being an event center, we also do some wedding rentals, some stags, some private parties and things like that. So we're a mid-tier facility. We're not a hotel or something on the bayfront, but for folks that are looking for an affordable space or venue.
And you know what? And you also have great, there's parking. There's a lot of things to the event center that you have there in the Old Hills Plaza that are perfect for people to come to. Now, all this money that's being raised, tell us more about the scholarships and who gets in on these scholarships and what do they need to do? Are these high school students?
So it started in 2010 with the Manufacturers Association. They had a fund that was a school choice, grade school-based lottery system based on financial need. So that's how it started. We still do that, and then we've expanded it to applications from grade school all the way up to college. So on our site, there's application, and it's still do it kind of drawing based for some of those, and then we do have several scholarships that are kind of what I call our legacy scholarships through different family, friends that have passed. We've honored those folks with a scholarship. So we have a scholarship that's out in Northeast High School. We have a couple in Girard, one at Prep Villa, just from different people that were either involved with the association or myself or my family that we've tried to memorialize. And it's been kind of cool to have about 7 legacy scholarships in addition to the other ones that are lottery-based.
So you're looking at 24 years. Mm-hmm. This is how far you've come.
Yep.
The money that you're raising and the scholarships that you are giving to many different entities. Great work, John.
Thank you.
Great work. So I see you got your Edinburgh shirt on. So I want to know, are you working out there as well?
No,
Are you at Girard?
I am in Girard.
Okay.
I retired from selling, and as we segue later, that's where I met Chip and had the fortunate opportunity to work with him for 14 years. So I'm the baseball coach at Girard High School. I'm the president of the foundation, which has now become a full-time job.
Sure.
And then I sub out in the district a couple of days a week as well, just to stay active with the kids and in the community. So,
well, I'm a Girard resident. So, and before I left town, I was living out in Lake City. So Dylan is a graduate from Girard. He started in town here at Collegiate, and then 11th and 12th grade year, he was out in Girard, and he was a Yellow Jacket.
Great.
I did text him last evening because I'm like, I have John on tomorrow, and I know that you got some things going on out in Girard. I need to know when you graduated. He said 2011. I'm like, boy, I really am getting old. So you got the event center. Anything to do with grants? Do you do anything grant-wise?
Well, we do a lot of support of any of the schools or the organizations that are looking for field signage, sponsorship programs, things like that. So we try to be as diverse as we can. Obviously, we get hit with a lot of different requests, but we try to do a lot of different things from dance to cheer to your traditional high school sports. We're a proud sponsor of Chip's podcast, and just try to do as many things as we can to help out as many people. Our tagline is trying to make a difference is what we have as
you
our tagline.
are.
So we just try to help
Foundation,
out as much people as we can, and that's kind of where we got together with Chip.
So you and Chip have been buddies for years.
So I've known Chip since 2004.
Okay.
Right.
With Corey Publishing, Jameson Publishing, Vert Markets.
Whatever you want to call it.
So.
Right.
So I've known Chip since then. Always loved. I have zero talent musically, but I've always had just tremendous respect of musicians. And I think I was a junior in high school when MTV came out. So I was just an addict of just great music, great videos. Thank you. Chip's older than I am.
I'm older than both of you. Thank you.
So we had a long connection, and as things started to evolve with the event center, we don't have anything on Tuesdays, and I just thought, well, there's what can we do? And just like you were talking about your podcast, I called him, and he's always been great. I said, hey, I got an idea. I said, but meet me here. So I gave him the address of the place and showed up and said, all right, here's what I'm thinking. And right away, the wheels started to turn, and I knew he was the right guy.
The two of you together have done some amazing work over there.
It was like
worked out good.
Early first quarter of 2022, probably
I think so.
January, February, we got together. So I said, I know him as Dan, so now I'm starting to call him Chip in the music world as we cross over. It's always tough when I call him Chip. Right. I'm like, is he going to look at me weird? Why are you calling me that? But
you have more nicknames than I do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So we got together. I said, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And then he just said, man, I got a lot of ideas. And then he kind of digested it, came back with things, and it's evolved into just an awesome event.
First Tuesday of the month event. Now, Chip, Dan, I've known you for many, many years, and you have a fantastic podcast as well, Erie Music History Podcast. Let's talk about your podcast and the very beginnings of it.
Okay. I was trying to think about that on the way here. Like, back in, what year is this? So back in 2010, obviously, I wrote the book about the Erie County Fieldhouse concerts. So I like Erie. I love Erie. I love Erie history. And so, I got to meet a lot of people through that. But more importantly, as years went on and I was playing out in my duo, Rankin and Shell, we've been together, 12 years or something like that. I met more and more musicians, older musicians oftentimes that I had great admiration for. And so I don't know if it was during COVID, when everybody was starting a podcast, but that's probably the case. I kind of got that history bug again, and I didn't want to write another book. And I thought, this whole podcast thing seems like low barrier to entry. And so I started the Erie Music History Podcast then in my basement. A few people, we talked about earlier, the mics and everything. And, you got to figure all that stuff out and don't hit the table, One of my most famous interviews and one of the most downloaded interviews I have is with Steve McConnell of the Snowmen back in the day. And throughout that very long conversation that I had with Steve, he was doing this.
Oh,
because he's a drummer, and I kept being, hey man, hey, hold on, and so I had to do a lot of editing on that one. But I've got to meet fantastic people like that, and I've interviewed 66 people so far. I'm just starting what I call season 8 right now.
That's what I was going to say. How many podcasts are we up to?
Yeah, so I've interviewed 66 people. I've rerun a few. We're at like 69 episodes. I run 8 to 10 episodes per season. Then I take a break, because I have a full-time job. I play a lot of gigs.
I know. You're a busy guy.
Yeah. And then, like John said, if you want to segue into that whole connection, we could do that.
Sure.
So the logical connection there was John's a giant music fan. And then I had just launched this podcast. And like he said, he came to me and said, hey, come up here. I want you to think about this. Well, one of the things I wanted to do was create a space for older musicians who may not have a band anymore or may not be playing out a lot anymore and give them a place to play. Well, I happen to know a group of guys that I had gone to see numerous times at a place called Bobby's Place, which is no longer around. The building's still there. I think it's 16th and Raspberry. Elena will correct me. She was the owner. But these guys used to play there with Marty O'Connor. So if you're from Erie, you know who Marty O'Connor is. And so they would show up. So we're talking Durf Hopsager, Tim McLaughlin, Rick Cass, Don on slide, forget his name. Anyway, it would be a mishmash of these guys. But Marty was the leader. And so if you ever were at Bobby's Place, it was this tiny little bar, and you just sit there, and Marty would sit down. There was no practicing, no rehearsing. You're a musician now. You know how it is. You didn't even know the key, or those guys didn't even know the key. And Marty would just start playing, and Durf would look at Tim, or they'd look at each other. And they did this for years, and they literally would pass the hat. And they raised the money.
First strings.
Well, they passed the hat, and all that money they decided would go to Second Harvest Food Bank, which you're obviously affiliated with.
Yes.
So Bobby's closes. They resort to getting together. Now, they like to play, they like to play. And they were at Durf's house just jamming. And then John came to me and said, hey, I want to do this music night. I said, I have the perfect house band for us. And so...
how did they become the Fabulous Leftovers?
so
Let's talk about that.
They weren't called that before. Tim is a super creative, great artist, and I suspect that Tim may have come up with that name. But the Fabulous Leftovers today obviously include Durf and Tim, and then John Carroll's one of the keyboard players, Chuck Leone's the other keyboard player, and then Rick Cass is their normal drummer, but this time of year, Rick goes to Florida and Tim Driscoll fills in. So you're talking a wealth of eerie legends who have played for years.
And Chip, when everybody goes to see these shows, there's legends sitting there as well. You know, like this is a great place for musicians and music aficionados to get together, right?
That's a great point. Yeah,
it is.
A lot of the people that I've had on the podcast now have gone and played there. I've got to play with some people like Dickie Buckle, who you admire so much, and Rick Krasinski and guys like that, and. But you're right, like every show now, and it is the first Tuesday of the month. If you're a musician, there are people in that crowd that have played for many, many years. So
it's nice to put names and faces together. Yeah. Because, I was out of the loop for a while, and then I come back, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, look it. Sure. There's Elvis. What's Elvis's real name? And I see him all the time.
I'm not sure.
Yes. It's, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'm getting old as well.
There's been tons that I've forgotten. Too,
right.
Of who's played there. At first we started it as the Leftovers would play, and then it would be an opportunity for other bands, like I said, to come up and play. It was kind of like an open mic thing. And that worked for a while. I even got to play with some people. We put together, some little bands and play 3-4 songs. But it has gained in such popularity now that now I have bands reaching out to me and saying, established bands saying, can we come and play? So bands like the Goats, the Legend Band, which was a huge popular band that we had, the Cows, whenever Ronnie Guzik is in town, Joe Salarino and Dickie, get up there and everybody joins them and they play. I know I'm missing other folks who have played there. Yeah,
I just want to say you've put a lot of great people together for these first Tuesdays of the month in the Old Hills Plaza at the JPT Foundation. I can't tell you how many people, how the buzz has gotten larger and larger, and the money that has been raised for Second Harvest Food Bank has gotten larger and larger too.
What have we raised?
Yeah, I was looking at the numbers. I mean, this past year in 2023, I think we exceeded 2022, but it was over $4,000 in 4,120.
Right.
22, and then just a little more than that for this past year. So we've done.
That's great.
It's come to over $7,000 in. We probably had 10. We take off the first in January and in the summer, so about 20 events. And
So when do we stop in the summer? Because I know that there's a stop mode on it.
The 4th of July weekend we took off, and then the New Year's just to try to make sense of the holidays and people's schedules. And I think it's worked. Everyone we kind of talked to supported that, and all the other stuff was great.
It's so much funner than bowling.
Well, in the summer, we compete with 8 Great Tuesdays, so we drop out July.
Okay.
But I was just going to point out that it's 6 to 9. It's totally free. It's BYOB.
I know. You got the pizza shop.
Right.
Right. Pasolink was right next door. They're fantastic. And this year, it's a little bit different. We aren't going to have the open mic format anymore because so many bands have reached out. So we literally have a schedule through February through June.
So let's at least remind our LECOM listeners that it is absolutely free.
Yes.
Yeah.
For FREE. Yep. A great night with 6 to 9 free. All right, Chip, tell me
Here's
playing.
who we got coming up. So first one, February 6th coming up. The Music for Veterans Band is going to play.
Vinny Stefanelli's crew.
You've had Vinny on.
I've had Vinny on the show.
And so that's a great opportunity for guys just like I've described to get up there and play in front of someone they're not used to. So that's great. In March, we have the Dan Douglas Band. They've been around for a little while, some country, some rock. April, we have the debut of Mike Redicliffe's new band, Rewind.
I've heard some really good things about them.
Right. So Mike Redicliffe's one of those holy grail guys I'd like to have on my podcast. He refuses over and over, just because a lot of guys don't want to do it,
Sure.
But April 2nd, Rewind. May 7th, our buddies Tom Lane and Tim McLaughlin's Shoreline is going to be there. And they've played before.
Yeah.
And then on June 4th, we have Moondogs. And Moondog has played before as a just solo and stuff. But the interesting thing about the June 4th gig is Moondogs are going to play in between the Fabulous Leftovers and Moondogs. There were 3 teenage kids that showed up at our last one last year. And they
Tell me more.
Yeah, and they were McDowell students, and they said, listen, how can we get our band to play here? And I said, listen, you're teenagers. These people are older. They're not going to go for, And they said, no, we love classic rock. And so they talked to me about, we'll learn whatever, and we'll just play like in between as you're switching out between the Fabulous Leftovers and Moondogs. We'll play 3 songs. And so they're called GURT, G-U-R-T. This will be their first gig, first time ever playing in front of anyone. That is June 4th. I think they're going to play Crazy Train maybe. And
Aussie, beautiful.
They told me 2 other ones, but they'll fit. The musical fit. But I was just super psyched to see them interested in this crowd and this whole event.
Well, and they'll bring some of the youngers to come on in too. And it's always, I mean, we all remember our first gig, Chip?
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah.
We go back.
Yeah.
The first time we were ever on stage and the jitters and all that stuff. But I am so glad you're giving some McDowell High School students a gig. That's great.
So, So there's great opportunities. And like you said, first Tuesday of the month, come out. It's totally free. Good music every time. The Leftovers play for the first hour always. Brian Waller, we can't do this without Brian Waller.
Wild Sound Productions.
Right.
He is the best. Right. I love Brian. Brian has done some really great gigs.
Brian donates his time and his equipment to us. When he's not there, I have to do it, so you know that it's not going to be as good. So thank you, Brian. Are we missing someone? Anyone else that helps out?
No, I think that's it. I mean, we moved away from the vendor part going forward, so it's going to be the focus on the music. But
and I got to say something about Brian and Wild Sound Productions. And of course, I've worked with Brian in previous podcasts.
Right,
great guy, and everybody always falls in love with the musician. But you know what? The sound guy is more important.
That's right.
Because a musician can be great, but if he doesn't sound great, then he's not great. So I always would say to Brian, I'm telling you right now, it's you. You make people sound wonderful.
Right.
And I'm so glad he's there for you guys too. Let's go back to your book a moment, because I really want to talk about the book that you wrote about the Erie County Fieldhouse. Because my first concert was Barry Manilow.
Oh boy. Okay.
I cried when he sang Mandy.
That was a snowstorm that night.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, really. He actually, and you probably know this, he actually played longer encores to give the plows time to clear out the parking lot. They didn't want the people to leave. And but he was there twice, once as a headliner and once as an opener.
And Chip, I'll tell you, I lived off of 38th Street, so we would always walk to every concert.
Yeah.
Mahogany Rush, Headies. So when I went through your book, serious flashback, because there's a lot I don't remember.
Sure. That's good. Yeah. Most of the people that I've talked to over the years say, I went to them all. And then they look at the list in the book, they go, oh, no, I didn't go to them all. Yeah.
Where can our listeners find that? Because I know some people would love to read up on it. 2
local bookstores, Werner's in the Liberty Plaza and Pressed down there by Romulo's. They both carry the book. You can get it on Amazon. You can order it directly from me. It's an easy read. It's got a lot of pictures in it.
Speaking of pictures, let's talk about your Erie Music History Podcast Facebook page.
Okay.
There are so many absolutely fantastic pictures. Mark Gorzicki.
Yeah.
Steve McConnell, who, by the way, him and I are chatting right now because I believe he wants to get on the show to discuss some of the things he's doing medically right now.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So you get on the phone with him.
It's not a short conversation. Yeah.
It's never.
Yeah, Steve's a good guy. Yeah. Yeah. But mark your calendar.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the Erie Music History Podcast Facebook page is a remarkable look back on many greats.
And I try to put a number of pictures from each person that I interview on that page. I actually canceled the whole web page that I had dedicated to it because everybody was just following the Facebook
page.
But I love seeing those old pictures that they give me. People always ask me what's my favorite. I'm going to tell you, Walt Slavinsky was my favorite interview. No
That's
offense
right.
to anybody else.
I wanted to ask you what was your best interview.
I always like to throw out Walt there. I mean, a guy that played for the Beatles in New York City. Come on, I mean, he's just a fantastic human being, and he was very nice to me. His brother Ronnie Guzik also, he came on with Dickie Buckle.
Where's Walt living now?
Walt lives here.
He's here.
Yeah. Still lives in the same place in Honey Bear Studios. Still has a studio. Yeah, he's maybe in his 80s. He's awesome. Yeah, so, but yeah, I've enjoyed every single one of them. I really have, because I learned so much. And like I said, these people are legends in my mind. Skip Niebauer, he was another one that was a recording guy that also had the RK4 that was, on the radio and things like that. Guys like Marty Coe from Friction. I mean, come on. Friction was the biggest thing back then.
The girls.
Yeah.
The screaming girls in front of that stage for Friction. Unbelievable.
And I haven't left out the ladies. I mean, Christine Lorraine Morgan was my number one first podcast in the Generic Beat and plenty of other bands. Paula Holmes, she's been living in Florida for years, but when she was here, I mean, that's a set of pipes right there, playing for Ruby Port and all sorts of other bands. I mean, she was in Ruby Port when she was a teenager, but guys like Barry King, great guitar players. And I don't know. I mean,
you got a
I'm
wealth.
forgetting a lot. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And you have a wealth of knowledge, Chip.
That's
Chip Chow from the Erie Music History Podcast. Also, John Tramontano, president of the JPT Foundation. I was practicing that, John.
Excellent.
All week. So we got our first Tuesdays of the month. JPT Foundation. It's in the Hills Plaza West, 6 to 9. Got a great lineup, all for a great cause for the Second Harvest Food Bank. I want to thank you both for coming on. It's thrilling to have the time with both of you because normally you're just dropping off money or I'm popping in or we're writing out the big check and taking pictures.
Yeah.
I never get this chance to, and I didn't know how far the two of you went back as friends and workmates.
Right.
So great job on the JPT Foundation.
Thank you.
And of course, Chip, the podcast is fantastic. So
Thank you.
Thank you both for coming on. I appreciate you both.
Thanks for having
My
us.
pleasure. Thanks, Matt.
During Thanksgiving holiday last year, I attend this comedy show for my cousin Mike Stankiewicz at the 3rd Street Falcones. Of course, I am a member. It was an amazing show. And my next guest backed up old Mike Stanky. She was gut-wrenching funny. And, I've always had this motto in my life that the more you laugh, the better you live. Welcome Lisa Chimeni Foster to the show, better known as the Glam Ham. Lisa!
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. And if you laugh a lot, I laugh a lot, and I am living large then. Hence the term the glam ham.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
How did that term come about, the Glam Ham?
The glam ham was born quite a few years ago when someone told me, why aren't you blogging? And I thought, I don't have time for that. I'm a great writer, but I don't have time for that. And then I thought, you know what? Maybe I will start writing because I love to write. And I needed a catchy name. And I was sitting at my desk at school and I thought, what rhymes? And I love pigs. And I feel like I've just been putting lipstick on a pig for so many years, not just because I'm plus size, but because I feel like we often have to make ourselves look like something. I don't know. I just feel like I'm always making myself look better than I am. feeling.
You like sloths too.
I love sloths.
I had to check out your Facebook page when we suddenly became friends, because as soon as I walked into that show, you were sitting right there. I had no idea that you were part of the show. And you're like, you are who? And I'm like, and you are who?
Oh, I knew about you. Yeah. You're a local legend, an icon.
Aw, thanks, lady. I appreciate you.
Such an honor to be here. And yeah, the glam ham thing, I just thought, I'm just a salty chunk of pork. I love ham. I've always been obsessed with ham bits. It just made sense.
So are you still blogging?
I am still blogging, yes. I often don't write for myself, but I actually write for another blog. So, that's for another time, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about where you come from. Like, were you born and raised in the 814?
I am 814, born and raised, super proud, love it, moved back here, lived many places.
Where did you graduate high school?
I did not graduate high school from here because, for those of you who are longtime Erieites, my dad worked at International Paper, but before was Hammermill. So we were part of that move that happened in the 80s. So I moved to Memphis.
You were in Memphis?
Yes.
For how many years?
10 years of my life that I'll never get back.
But come on.
I know.
That's where Elvis is.
I
You got
know.
your Elvis shirt
I
on
do.
today.
And
how far were you from Graceland?
I was far. I lived in suburbia, but my parents insisted that I do all the things in the city, and I had lots of great friends there, and I did have a great experience, but I was anxious to come back here because my family is here.
Right.
Yeah.
And then off to college.
Off to college. I chose to live with my grandfather, my mom's dad, because I thought I will kill someone my own age. I need to live with a 70-some-year-old man.
That's perfect.
It was. I thought I have to live with a senior citizen and steam cabbage or whatever it is he's doing. And I don't know. It's just more my speed. I know people think, oh my God, you're a stand-up comic. You must be so cool. No, I eat steamed vegetables and then live a wild life on the weekends.
So where'd you graduate from?
I graduated from an all-girls Catholic high school named St. Agnes in Memphis, Tennessee.
And then college?
College, I went to Penn State Behrend, and then I got my master's at Gannon.
Wow. So you're quite educated as well.
Yeah.
What you were a school teacher. Tell me that experience.
School teaching is the best experience to prepare you to be a stand-up comic because you stand in front of the toughest audience, the most critical audience, teenagers. They're standing there, and for lack of, I don't even know that they know they're doing it, but they're just judging you. We all did it,
Yes.
right?
Oh, right.
We all sat in our classroom seats in high school, and we were like, what's this lady or this guy all about? And we just sat there and judged them because whether we wanted to learn physics or not, we wanted to judge the teacher.
What were you teaching?
I was teaching 10th grade English. Yes, for almost 20 years, actually. Yeah.
And what schools?
I taught at Villa mainly.
Yeah. You taught at Villa.
I did.
Well, I recall at the gig, you saw one of your students' parents.
Yes.
In the crowd. And
They're
you
everywhere.
called him out.
I remember him from a parent-teacher conference, and he wore bike shorts, like spandex. First of all, if you're the kind of guy that should wear bike shorts, if you know what I mean, wear them to a parent-teacher conference. Please, distract me.
He was sitting right next to me.
You know what?
It made me laugh out loud.
It was so many years ago. And the day after the parent-teacher conference, I said to his son, your dad wore bike shorts to the conference. And the kid was mortified. I'll never forget it.
Tell me some funny stories from your teaching days.
Oh, one of the funniest stories was just the things that I think happen that students don't even see. Like one day I was sitting in my classroom grading papers and my chair just broke. I mean, I used to be even fatter than I am now. And I was grading papers, and all of a sudden my pen just started trailing off because the chair was giving away, and I didn't even realize what was happening. And then the students are about to come in. I'm laying on the ground, and you think, how am I going to recover this? Because this will be something that they will just go wild over. So I got up off the ground. I put the chair out in the hallway, and I put a sign on it that said another teacher's name, and I put so-and-so broke this, and I put it outside his room.
It's
another fat teacher.
It's tough to teach teens.
It is. But you know what? I think that they also are a gift in so many ways because they just...
they're in that in-between.
Yeah, they are.
It's
and you have to just love them for who they are.
It's got to be different for you.
It's their parents I can't forgive. Them I can forgive because they're just, you know what? You're 16. And if I tell you to be more respectful or, know your role and you don't, we can work on that, hopefully. But the parents, that's one of the reasons I got out of teaching.
I think that's where things have changed.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you.
I can remember with my son Dylan, and I'm sure he can attest to it to this day.
How old is Dylan now?
He's 31.
Okay.
So anytime he would complain about any teacher, grade school, high school, college, I would say, I'm on the teacher's side.
Exactly. Thank you, Nat.
You know what I'm saying? I would say to Dylan, there's no excuses.
My parents would say to me if I would complain about a teacher, Lisa Ann, what did you do?
Right.
To make them not like you. And I was a good student, but they would always say, you're always going to run into people who you don't agree with. You're going to have bosses. You're going to have, life isn't fair. Just figure it out. They would even rehearse with me, like, if you need to speak to the teacher, this is what you should do. And you know what? Learn how to work it out. I've just come across so many parents that are willing to fight their kids' battles. And so that's some of what I love to talk about in comedy because now I can say it.
Tell me about some of them battles.
The battles are, I think that computers and cell phones have just changed how people feel like they can communicate with educators. And my heart goes out to all the teachers out there because people say things to you on email that they would never say to your face. I mean, look at a woman like me. People fear me. I mean, I know I'm gorgeous, but they're like, oh, I'm kind of afraid of her. And you should be. I'm an authority figure. But you would never say what you said in an email to my face, generally speaking. So I think that that's part of it too. And they just have lost this general sense of propriety that people used to have and respect for teachers. Like, let me come in and work this out. Let's talk about this. Instead, let me just hammer this email out in the middle of the night or in the evening and just assume that my kid is right.
Well, in high school, my son apparently was writing his own excuses.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good job, Dylan.
Yeah. Great job,
We've
Dylan.
never seen that before. Yeah. You're so original.
So nobody was on to him the entire year. And I think it was the last week of school. I get a phone call fresh off the radio down the street.
Love it.
And it was the principal at Collegiate Academy. And she said, Natalie, could you come in today? I would like to speak with you. I'm like, sure, I am on my way. So I get into the principal's office. There's no sign of my son. Nowhere. Apparently he was in another office. She pulls me in. She sits down. Dylan is such a great student and he gets great grades. And, we had an incident. And a parent emailed that all these kids skip school. And so we decided to go back into your son's file. And we noticed that he's got all these different excuses written in different handwriting.
Oh, my.
And I looked at her. She said, this isn't your handwriting, is it? I said, no. And I thought he'd be smarter to have somebody with good penmanship write these.
And the same person. Dylan, you're at Collegiate.
Yes. So I am sitting there, and this is the week before school lets out. And I'm sitting there, and I'm saying, where is he? And she said, oh, we have him in the next room. I said, you need to bring him in this room.
He will die today. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So he comes sheepishly walking into her office, and then he sits down, and he looks at her and says, my mother is a saint. Please don't blame my mother for my bad behaviors and writing these excuses or whatever.
Bless you, Dylan, for you have sinned. Right?
Right? You know what I mean? Like now he's calling me a saint in front of the principal. I looked at him and I looked at her and I said, well, what do we need to do about this? And she said, well, it's the last week of school. I think we'll have him stay after and clean offices and classrooms. And so for the last 5 days of school, that's what he did. And then, of course, we moved out to the West County for his junior year. So he was out in Girard. And I said, well, thank God, because now you can start all over again. By the time they find out what you're really like, you'll be graduated. He was not a fan of going to Girard at first, but it all worked out.
Yeah.
But I get that.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I just think that parents just need to try to be realistic about their kids. But I've also had incredible experiences with parents, and they've just been so kind to me. So I've been grateful for that too. I will say that that's the majority of people have been nice.
So let's talk about the leap into comedy.
Oh, the leap. Yeah. It's a big leap, especially for a glam ham on these gams, just leaping.
When did this all come about?
I started getting on stage about 13 years ago, just doing like emceeing when Keller's was juniors.
I did not know that.
Yes. And they, you could be an MC and like go up and introduce the comedians. And it was, it went really well. I mean, I had some times where it didn't go great, but that's just how it is.
Yep.
And then I started getting a lot of work from there. And then I started performing often, but I thought I can't be this like really great teacher if I'm also doing comedy on the weekends. And I just wasn't ready to let teaching go, I don't think, and make that leap. And
because it's a security, so much more comfort. I mean, I give you a lot of credit for saying, hey, I'm putting this on the sidelines because I really want to do this.
Right. I'm putting a regular paycheck, even if it's not great, on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my husband said to me a couple of years ago, he was like, you know what, Lisa, we've always been poor or broke or whatever. You should be happy.
We're always paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. So like, just go do what you want to do. And so I said,
that's a great husband.
Yeah, it is. And he's been very supportive. My family's been very supportive. And I thought, you know what? I'm not getting any younger, and especially women in show business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who are your mentors?
Oh my gosh. Tammy Pescatelli has been so kind to me.
Good. She's fantastic.
She is.
I can remember my years past with juniors when Tammy would come in. She's sharp. She's on her game.
Yeah, she, I don't know. She's just been like, she told me years ago when I opened for her at the Women's Expo, Lisa, you need to quit your job. You need to go on the road. And I wasn't ready to do that. And then when I did quit my job, I called her and I was like, guess what, Tammy? I quit my job. She was like, Lisa, why did you do that? She was like, you do have other things. I said, oh no, I'm not dumb. Like I have other jobs. I quit my main gig.
Hey, listen, hear the ghost?
I do hear
the ghost in the heater in the heater fence.
I swear it's not me.
Welcome to the 11th floor of the Renaissance Building.
I swear it's not me pounding a hammer and I don't know.
So Tammy Pescatelli.
Yeah, she's been amazing. You know what? I've people always talk crap about women and like how women don't always support women, and I don't know. Women who I've met in comedy have just been so kind, and yeah, especially Tammy.
So when did you get your first standing ovation? Tell me about the very first time people stood up.
Polish Falcons.
Yes,
the Polish Falcons. Actually, in March last year, I had a big show there. It was my own show, and I just. I had a sold out crowd. It was great. I was on stage for over an hour, but people were loving it. So I just kept talking and having fun. And
isn't that connect?
It is.
So great.
That's why you quit your job and you do something that you want to do because you thought, I was born to do this.
Good for
I
you.
love making people laugh, and that's my gift.
I think about, how about the shows where the audience doesn't seem to grasp?
It's just like a classroom where people
See, I'm glad that you compare that to a classroom.
I have so many years of experience where you feel like you're not connecting, and sometimes you are. So you just have to push through. I tell myself on stage, this is just like, let's say, second block, where, you know what, there's some students who are with you. So let's focus on those students or those audience members. I can see that guy's smiling or that woman's with me. And you know what? Not everybody reacts to comedy in the same ways. I'll have people come up to me after shows who I watched in the audience the whole time, and it doesn't even look like they were laughing. But those will be the people that come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so funny. And this was one of the best nights I've ever had. And I remember classrooms like that where parents would say to me, oh, you're my daughter's favorite teacher. And I would think to myself, she gives me looks like she wants to cut my head off, right? But that's just being a teenage girl.
Yes.
And I think she hates me and she's staring laser beams through me. But then at the end of the year, she tells me, you were my favorite teacher. So you just don't know how you're connecting with people. And I think as long as you just push through.
So how are, reading the audience is important.
Oh, it is. And you just have to have enough material in your repertoire to be able to keep changing it up.
And do you, I know you do some audience participation too. Do you feel comfortable calling people out?
I do. I only do that, I think, if something happens that I feel like I need to address, or if somebody's doing something that I don't like, I have to talk about it. That's the teacher in me.
See, and that's the thing too. That's I've noticed with comics. Some comics are really good at reading people out there and what they're doing, and it becomes part of the show.
Yeah, I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm not here to call you out or make fun of your shirt or say something about the way you look.
Or your bike shorts.
Right. Well, that was hot, honestly. He had all the right to wear those.
Oh, that's great.
But I am here to call you out if you're doing behaviors that I don't like whispering in the front row or taking selfies instead of paying attention to me, or talking on FaceTime and interrupting people. I said to a woman a couple weeks ago who was talking behind her hand, like very middle school behavior. You know, when you talk behind your hand in front of people?
Right.
And you think, oh, no one's seeing this. And I said to this woman, stage right, are you finished with your behavior? And she looked at me and I said, no, middle school called and they want you back. And she was irritated with me the whole time. And I thought, you know what? Everybody else is happy with the fact that I called her out because she needed it.
I cannot tell you how many times my husband in the past has called me out. Don't put your hand over your mouth when you want to tell me something. That is just...
You do that?
I've done it in the past. I've gotten over it. And I'm normally not talking about that individual. I got something else to say, and I will put my hand... And my husband's
well, then
like,
just wait.
Stop.
The appropriate time to talk.
Stop.
Otherwise, the glam ham is going to reprimand.
I know, and like I'll put my hand up, and he'll put his hand up to just to mock me, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm doing something wrong here, but timing. Tell me about comedic timing.
You either have it or you don't. I don't know. I feel like it's something you're born with.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Local comedian Lisa Chimeni Foster on the podcast this morning. And, Lisa, the spectrum of comedy continues to change. I can recall, back in the day, we pushed the envelope hard on radio. I mean, we did. Like, we came as far as we could without the FCC going.
Right.
And then Janet Jackson has a slip up during a Super Bowl. And Monday morning, I come into work, and everybody's like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this,
that's
you can't
when it
do
happened.
that. Yeah, you can't do this, you can't do that. Then all of a sudden, we became...
It's like when Eve messed everything up.
Yeah. Right
Janet
on.
ruined it too, yeah.
And
it's always a woman.
So, I know there's that fine line between, funny or offensive.
Exactly.
How do you get through that?
I've been riding that line my whole life.
I know.
I just stay away from topics that make me uncomfortable. And I think you're looking at me thinking, what does make you uncomfortable? You have this wild haircut, and I don't know. I don't touch politics. I don't touch things that make me squirm, that are general things that my parents taught me, like, don't talk about that. Don't talk about money, religion, politics. I don't think stuff like that is funny. I just talk about my life because I know my life, and I just make fun of myself.
That's, and the other thing too is I don't know how the turn of events happened. Well, I guess I do. But, I went and saw Jimmy Kimmel out in L.A., loved Jimmy. Then all of a sudden it became political.
Yes. Everybody's getting canceled.
I can't watch Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy has... I'm like, Jimmy, I loved you, man. I don't want to listen to that.
I don't either. I just think we're inundated by all of that stuff anyways. I just want to have fun.
Yes.
And especially on a night out, I'm sure that people don't want to hear about COVID or politics or all the things that are on the news. I'm here to talk about, I don't know, my weight or my husband or how much I eat or I don't eat or farting or whatever,
Right.
I don't know, stuff about life.
So you're telling me your life is funny?
It is funny. It's the whole reason I am funny. I'm the fat kid from middle school who survived. We don't ever get to have a voice, and I have one. And now I have a microphone and a spotlight. So there it is.
And before you get started, where do you put yourself before you walk up on that stage?
I always listen to you know what? I try not to even think about what I'm about to do. I've prepared enough during the week. I've gone over my outline. I know what I want to do. So I socialize. Some comics like to be backstage. I go back there for a few minutes and talk to people, but I like to be in the audience and hang out and not think about I'm about to go up on stage and entertain people, because I don't know. I always equate it with school. You're either ready for the test or you're not,
See, I see where your teaching abilities have grooved right in to your...
Listen, I've studied, so I'm either ready for the test or I'm not.
And being out there with the audience, I think that gives you an upper hand, I'd say.
I'm not out there to get material per se. I'm just out there to kind of see the vibe and have a drink and enjoy myself. And most of the time people have no idea that I'm the one on stage. So
I did not know that at Third Street Falcons. I did not know that. So, you're out there with the crowd. Tell me, because I know that you've opened for some rock solid comedians here at Keller's. Talk more.
I've been so lucky to open for Chris Kattan. Everybody's been so great too. I've opened for JJ Walker. Let's see, who else? I have a huge list of people. I can't even think of them all off the top of my head. But those have been two of my most recent and most favorites.
How about deceased comedians?
Oh my gosh.
Who are your favorites?
Well, Rodney Dangerfield. I grew up watching him. And you know what? My dad, who I lost this summer, my dad would always say, I get no respect, because all I ever did was make fun of my dad. And we would always watch Rodney together.
One of my dad's favorite comedians was Red Skelton.
Same, yes.
And Red Skelton said, no matter what your heartache may be, laughing helps you forget about it for just a few seconds.
Yes.
So I know you've talked about losing your dad this past summer. Has comedy helped you in that grieving process?
Yes, and I actually had to go on stage, I'm going to say it was 2 weeks after my dad passed. And I thought about canceling the show or just telling them I couldn't make it. It was a really cool show in Columbus at this really neat place called The Attic. It's an awesome comedy club. It's in a historic building in Old Town in Columbus. And I thought, you know what? No, I'm just going to, if I need to say something about my dead dad on stage, I will. And I did. And it was in the summertime. And I just started it out with, how's everybody's summer going? And people were like, oh, it's okay. And this one guy was complaining in the audience, like a little whiny man. And I said, what, did your dad die or something? Which was kind of risky.
Yeah.
And he said, well, a couple years ago. And I was like, well, get over it. My dad died 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I was like, instead of Hot Girl Summer, it was Dead Dad Summer. So, I mean, my dad was one of my biggest fans and one of the funniest people I knew. So I just thought, I have to keep being funny.
So you are your daddy's girl.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And both of my parents are funny. So I've been blessed with a very funny household.
I know I'll be coming down for the Third Street Falcons on February 10th.
Oh,
You're going to do a
yes.
benefit for the youth summer camp.
Yes.
Tell our listeners more.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I love the Polish Falcons. I had my wedding reception there 20 plus years ago. That's my place. They've been so good to me. So yes, we're doing a benefit for, it's for the Scouts. So there's going to be baskets and all kinds of stuff. But yes, I'm doing a comedy show.
Lisa, what time is that?
It's at 7, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
So you got baskets, you got everything. You can get your tickets at the door.
Yes, you can get your tickets at the door.
Because I'm going to be at the Falcones to see you, and then the following evening is Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
No, is it? Yeah, it's Super Bowl.
I think it is.
It is.
That's
Jane Ross.
Oh, well,
It just signs. Jane Ross signs me up for everything, and this is funny. You'll get a kick out of this. I
love
She
her.
texts me. She's like, "Nat, I missed Lisa. I missed Lisa on the podcast." I'm like, "It's next week, Jane."
I love that she's on the up and up, kind of.
Tell me about Columbus really quick. What's going on there? You spend a lot of time?
Columbus has a great comedy scene.
Columbus is a beautiful town.
Yes, I lived there for a little bit, and I did a comedy competition there last spring.
How'd that
And
go for you?
It was great. I almost won, except I went over time. And I don't know, I met some really cool people, and there were club owners in the audience, and so now they just ask me to perform there all the time.
Have you performed with Aaron Forsyth?
Yes, I love him.
Aaron, I'll tell you, and Aaron's a
First of all,
musician.
he's so cool. Like,
Yes, he is.
Why is he so cool looking?
And he is cool looking too. And I bumped into him, and he told me, he's like, "I'm doing comedy now."
Yeah.
I looked at him like, "Aaron, how awesome is that?"
So you're
He
a
goes,
musician?
He's like, "I was so depressed, Nat, and I just wanted to make other people laugh." And I get it, it was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
As a musician, you couldn't go out and do the things that you wanted to do. So I know you worked with Aaron. He's cool.
I love him, and I also love to talk about my mental health on stage, or the lack thereof. So Aaron and I often actually email and text about that too. Like, where are you at with your mental health right now? It's not great.
Yeah. Well, what's your schedule looking at right now besides February 10th? Let's look ahead. Tell me more.
Well, we're looking ahead to this weekend on January 26th and 27th. I'll be at Keller's opening for Ron Pearson, who's a comedian.
Okay.
And then I'm at the Falcones, as you say, on the 10th.
On the 10th.
And then the 16th and 17th, I'm also at Keller's opening for a comedian named Maureen Langan. And then I'm also there the following weekend. Can't think of the dates off the top of my head. Whatever that weekend is after the 15th and 16th, or 16th and 17th. And then let's see, what else do I have going on? I'm also there another weekend in March. So check the Keller's website.
And a lot of these comedians that you are opening for were on my radio show many, many moons ago, like Rocky Laporte.
Oh, I loved him.
Does he still talk about his classic, "Hey, Nelly"? You know what I mean? Like,
He still has that definite accent.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I love him because he makes fun of Italian things, and I can relate.
I know. I get it.
Also, I just auditioned for America's Got Talent this weekend. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, we'll see.
You are out there, girl.
I just keep putting myself out there because it's all about experience.
But you know what, Lisa? That's you taking the risk.
Yes.
That's.
I quit my job, so I might as well keep taking risks.
Thanks, Lisa, our glam ham in the 814. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You truly are a gem in the 814, and I thank you for making the world a better place, because laughter is important to all of us. And I always say, laughter is the sun that drives winter from the human face.
I love
Because
that.
But just making people laugh, I just love your show.
Thank you.
And I hope more people get out and in the 814 and get to see you, because you really are a class act.
Thank you. And they got to see me before they start getting charged Chappelle prices. So come and see me at the Falcons first.
You got it. Everybody, make it a great week in the 814.
You've been tuned in to Breakfast with Nat the Hat in the 814, sponsored by Erie Insurance on 88.5 and 102.7 LECOM Radio.